flies by a big blur.
Parts of it fly by, parts of it go kind of slow, but today has been awesome. It was like really fun engagement, good food, good drink. This location is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's so excited to be in Barcelona, which is
totally. The weather is great. The sun is out. Like Zuko said, we don't necessarily get out of the hotel as often as we would like.
True.
But with the activities that have been going on today, with the panels, with the presentations, it's been amazing. Dense and diverse information, a lot to absorb on the two tracks at the same time. And your role in all of this is then organizing. Like, tell us about what you do with the foundation with regard to zeal.
Sure. So yeah, I'm the Chief Operating Officer, which means that my job is everything that's not engineering. So all the stuff that most people probably think is it's the less sexy, less interesting stuff that kind of makes like the trains run on time. But I love it. It's like my passion. My whole team, Danica and Dan and John and Dee, like it's really cool to see everybody be so proud of the work we're able to do. And so like on a daily basis, we support CCG, we run HR for ZF and do again all the non-engineering stuff. But we get to support all the people making super cool stuff, like whether it's through grants, supporting ZFAV Club.
I was about to say, I literally couldn't have done this without you. Without Zcash Foundation, and when I came to ZF and pitched the idea to you and to Dan and Danica, I was sure that it was nuts. And I'm like, okay, but if anyone is going to actually fund this thing, then it's ZF, because like we've worked together so much.
Yep.
And the values, the benefit of what the AV Club is hoping to do
and has
done is in line with so much of what Zcash Foundation wants to do with the mission and values.
Yeah, one thing that's really cool, and I'm really proud of you guys for, like the whole AV Club crew, is that so many organizations struggle with inclusion in like audio visual stuff, and so like all of the translation work that's being done, and then all the work that's being done in native, languages as opposed to doing it in English like we do everything, makes all of this so much more accessible, and it's not an afterthought. It's not just like hitting subtitles on YouTube, which is a first good step. You guys are doing so much more, and you're being so successful in it, and you're opening up Zcash to not just Zcash, but you're opening up AV stuff and Zcash to so many people who wouldn't have that access otherwise. And things are being created now in those languages first, and then English second, which is like incredibly cool. And I don't know. I doubt you all understand how unique that is. I've worked in nonprofits for a very long time at this point, and it's a struggle for every nonprofit to reach the communities and audiences that they're trying to reach, and they do it pretty poorly. You guys started there and started doing it in a really effective way, which is super cool. So, and you're just getting started. I mean, like when do you say ZFAV Club started?
Watch my talk in 2 days.
I'm not busy. Of course I'm going to be there.
I am giving a presentation on, I believe it's Tuesday, about the first 6 months of the Zcash Foundation Audiovisual Club.
Okay.
And when I was starting to write the talk, without doing too many spoilers, when I was starting to write the talk, that was the first question I had. It was like, when did this start? Because I go back in my personal history, because so much of what I was working on in the past, with my live streaming, but also with languages. I was in charge of managing all the translations for Z.Cash and the ECC assets. So that for me was it was already on the tip of my mind. It was something I knew that we needed to do, and it doesn't necessarily correlate with audio visual. But for me, as content creators, as audiovisual storytellers, human language is the thing. We have to start there, so that we can communicate with each other. And I had a feeling that the Zcash community was much bigger than we were seeing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It allows people to be seen and heard that wouldn't be seen and heard otherwise. necessarily, and then you get to see how big that community is and then grow it from there. I mean, in the ZCons I've been involved in, this is absolutely the most diverse ZCon ever in presenters, in attendees, and then obviously the languages that are being streamed in. It's really amazing. To think that Zcash is only in English is just like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, or any cryptocurrency for that matter, like the whole point is to transcend borders, transcend governments, transcend, challenges. I mean, that's going to be done in many different languages, obviously. So that's super cool.
Yeah, it's interesting that here we want to be able to send money to whoever and be able to communicate in that way, because that transaction is still messaging, it's still communication. But so many other projects don't look at how do we have respect for these other cultures and for these other communities that want to be a part of what we're doing. And how do we not necessarily it's for me, it doesn't necessarily feel like inclusion so much as just like creating space and providing the tools to be able to enable people, to empower.
I think that's actually inclusion. I mean, that's how I would define inclusion in this sense, but I think what would be a real success is next year when we do the next in-person ZCon, if our panels are extremely diverse, because there's so many people from so many different communities involved, and not just in a specific part of the ecosystem, but if we have a grantee panel, it's super diverse. If we have let's be honest, we had a kind of a town hall today, and it was not diverse in any way, right? And that's a bummer, and it's not. If we're going to be successful and we're going to really see to fruition the power of Zcash and the possibility, then these panels should be reflective of many different communities. And there's nothing. The only thing that's stopping us from doing that is being able to transact in languages that we're unable to today. But you guys, more than anyone, you're the ones putting the most effort into this, are going to make that possible. And that's I don't know, man. I think it's incredible. And it really is super impactful. And you make it look easy, but I also know, sitting through your testing yesterday, and you guys are overcoming challenges every time you sit down to do anything, and you don't give up, which is amazing to me. That you're always fiddling, you're always, what does this button do? You know what I mean? Or yesterday, I watched you, with the different settings on the camera, you are as curious as anybody, even though you have the most amount of knowledge or a significant amount of knowledge. Experience, yeah. But you are the most, one of the most curious still. So that vibe carries through, everybody you talk to. I find it really inspiring, AV stuff in general. I don't have the patience to do a lot of the things that you all do, but I love watching it. I'm inspired by watching you do it and then seeing. So often you guys will do something, I'll see the start, and the end, the finished product is nothing like I envisioned the start, but we're seeing where you begin. Yeah, I mean, you must feel that too, right? If you really think about the journey sometimes, it's never straight. It's bumpy as hell, right?
It is, and especially because the ZFAV club is a decentralized effort. It is a crazy amount of effort that we're all putting into this, but we're all putting it into it. And we're all working on whatever it is that we want, what we're curious about. And I try to just kind of create an environment where that's possible. So one of the keys is having regular meetings, and not your typical, we have regular meetings on every Tuesday at the same time at 1700 UTC, and then on Wednesdays we have a workshop where we literally just try to break stuff. And it's where we'll be curious about a certain application. And we started for the first time, and we're demoing it together, playing with it together, and now we have multiple minds troubleshooting and learning. And then in the time between these workshops, then one person in the club might be super curious about solving one little problem that we had, or trying some other idea that they had that we could use that application or that tool for, and then they come back next week with some sort of solution to this. And perfect example is the language translation stuff that we were working on, and this is where the the story for me is also over time. Like it doesn't start when I picture it to be at the beginning is not at all where it ends up. And Ramo's stream in Spanish, the Zicon en Español stream, is a really good example of that, because that sort of started with John, and he was hacking on some language stuff so that he could understand the Spanish meetups that were happening on Free to Z, I believe. And then he came to the Zia Baby meeting, and he was like, hey, look at this thing that now we can route audio into like Google Translate and it from a YouTube video, and it does the transcription and the translation. And that because we're so many people working on it, and we have active live projects to hack on this stuff with. The Zcon Voces was the first example of this.
Yeah.
And John had demoed his project like a week before Zcon Voces or something like that. And but this was a chance for us to really like test in the wild.
Yeah.
And we're not afraid of breaking stuff because we do it all the time. And it's the same thing that happened yesterday. We were planning on doing this type of setup yesterday, and I show up, and flexibility is the name of the game for me. And so I show up and I'm like, okay, nothing's working. That's fine. We spent 3 hours troubleshooting, solved all sorts of problems. And then today we found this great space where we could do what we wanted to do, and then we're prepared. And the whole team is now here behind the camera, hiding. That used to be my job.
And I gotta tell you, you mentioned John, and Dan, who's behind the laptop over here, will tell you that we have a huddle every Monday, like my ops team at ZF, and we go around and just say what we've been up to, if we need anything from anybody for next week. And I love John's updates more than anybody, because he comes through with the most random stuff all the time, and it's always like, you know, one Monday he'll be like, I've been working on this thing, it's not really working. So then I did this other thing, it's not really working. I'm gonna try this thing this week, and then the next Monday he's like, I totally fixed that thing I was working on. And it's just like he's so tenacious in this quiet, like kind of just very, very like consistent way. Like I can just picture him hacking away, and then like he gets it, shares it with everybody else, then on to the next thing. It fascinates me. Because again, I don't have that kind of patience. It's not my thing, but I just love hearing the process. Because honestly, I find it super inspiring, and I can see how I can kind of apply it to the work I do, which isn't very creative for the most part. It's not, again, it's not the most exciting parts of ZF's work or any organization's work, but the work I do enables creative people and engineers and everybody else to do their work. That way, they don't have to worry about it. They're getting paid, they're getting the resources they need, and that makes me happy. And then that's, you had asked before about what my role is for Zcon. I guess I'm responsible for all this ultimately. If it succeeds, the whole team gets to take credit for it, which is fantastic, and everybody deserves it. And if it was to fail, I probably would fall on that sword and take all the credit for that. But there's no way it would fail, because everybody puts so much work into this. Like anybody who's ever put on an event, any event, a wedding or a birthday party, like whatever it is, there's a stress involved in that. I don't actually feel any stress putting on Zcon, because I love working through it with my team. Because everybody's so passionate about doing better than last time. And I have to tell you, like anybody that was in Vegas, like we were really, really proud of Vegas. Now looking back after what we're doing here, I'm still proud of it, but like I'm more proud of this, and then next time we do it, we'll be more proud of that. And I think that's like, it's fun and it's cool. And I think we're really fortunate we get to do this work that we get to do something we're passionate about, but also use our very unique skill sets. Danica, who's on our team, has a very unique skill set that doesn't include creative things until she goes and does a creative thing, and she's like, hey, wait, I'm good at this too. Or Dan, who's amazing at AV stuff and community building. He's had to learn other skills on our team, and he's crushing on that. And so, like, I don't know, I feel very fortunate. I get to work with the people I get to work with and support, the people I get to support, including you and the AV Club crew. It's really neat. And I think if more people felt the way we all do about like getting satisfaction out of supporting other people, I think that's actually a really huge part of the AV Club. You get satisfaction learning new things, solving problems, but there's no question you get satisfaction out of seeing other people succeeding, that you got to help them, to help them get that. And I think that's like lost in a lot of situations, unfortunately, especially the corporate situations for sure.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do something, you know, that we really believe in. You know, like seeing cash spread and evolve and just get better and more impactful.
Yeah, I think that's really important. This idea of supporting each other and the reward that we get from that. Me personally.